Chapter 2, Counsel from the Wise One. The young fly ventured across the meadow, antenna quivering, wings still drying. His initial attempts at flight were clumsy. He managed only brief spurts before landing awkwardly on tall blades of grass. Despite the struggle, a kernel of determination burned within him, fueled by equal parts desperation and curiosity. Eventually, he noticed a lone figure perched atop a flat, sun-warmed stone near the meadow's edge. Another fly, a frail one with wings so worn and filmy they looked translucent in the morning light. Though his posture was stooped, there was a certain dignity in his bearing. This was the elder. The young fly approached cautiously. He recalled his parents mentioning that some flies lived the full span of a day, becoming elders. In the final hours of their existence, if anyone had answers, it would be this sage perched on the stone. Sensing the newcomer, the elder turned slowly. His compound eyes, once vibrant, were now a dulled grey, but they held a quiet wisdom. "You are newly hatched," he seemed to say without words, antenna twitching in recognition. "Your body still carries the softness of morning." The young fly took in the elder's trembling wings. "Why must it be so short?" he asked, though his language was mostly movement and the faint hum of his wings. One day, only one day to see it all, to understand it all. The elder paused as if selecting from a reservoir of carefully considered thoughts. "Things have their time," he replied gently. "Even if we cannot perceive the reason, events unfold according to a pattern larger than ourselves." Beyond the meadow, that ominous clanking of metal intensified. The silhouettes of uniformed men and heavy machinery bobbed in and out of view. A column of them trudged along a muddy path. Horse-drawn wagons rattling under the weight of supplies. Their presence was impossible to ignore. The young fly glanced at them, perplexed. Thosy beings. They march with such purpose. Are they like us, bound to some singular destiny? The elder's wings fluttered in the faint breeze. They are part of something vast, a conflict beyond our ability to grasp. To them, our lives may seem insignificant. Yet, even the smallest actions can ripple outward. A hush fell between them as they observed the passing column. The men moved in disciplined strides, their faces grim and set. Horses whinnied, straining against harnesses, and the wagons carried crates of unknown contents. The air shimmered with anticipation, as if on the verge of a great shift. The young fly felt a curious pang in his abdomen, an unnamed anxiety. "You speak as if there is still hope," the young fly ventured. "But how can I hope for anything when time is so limited?" The elder offered a slow, deliberate nod. "Oh, brevity is our gift. We see the world with intensity, for we cannot afford the luxury of years. Every moment matters. Choose how you spend each instant." They both watched as a stray breeze ruffled the meadow grasses, sending seeds floating toward the marching column. The elder fly's gaze flickered over the distance. For a moment, the old one's eyes narrowed, as though he recognized the insignias on the wagons or the shape of the helmets. But he said nothing more about it. The young fly detected that same foreboding tension. Is something terrible happening? Or is this how things always are? Again, that wise, measured tone. Conflict has churned these lands for as long as I've lived, which for us is but a single sunrise. But it has not always been so for the large beings. They are stirred by forces we cannot name. Power, pride, fear, perhaps they march to impose a vision. Perhaps they scramble to defend a threatened ideal. In the end, even they cannot escape the passage of time. A moment of quiet reflection passed between them. The elder spoke once more, gently guiding the young fly closer. Listen to me. You do not change the fact of your limited existence by worrying over it. Instead, you live and discover. Whether you find meaning in a sweet drop of nectar or in the grand events beyond the hills, that is your choice. The elder's wings quivered, and he drew a small breath. Oh, time is short. I have but hours left, if that. So I pass this charge to you. Look beyond the obvious. Seek what resonates within you. If you yearn to understand, then chase that yearning. The young fly felt a surge of gratitude. The morning sun had fully risen now, and he could sense his own energy returning, his wings drying enough for proper flight. Yet along with that energy came a ripple of urgency. Time was slipping through him like water through a sieve. They both turned their eyes to the muddy path where the soldiers and wagons trudged on. An officer seated on a horse barked an order. The men's boots slapped against the ground in unison, stirring up the scent of damp earth and metal. One soldier's glance flickered toward the meadow, eyes hard, as if suspecting a hidden observer. Then he looked away and continued on. For the elder, that glance seemed a confirmation of sorts. "Thee carry orders," he murmured. "Thee have a grand plan. We cannot see it, but we feel it. In the end, we must accept that some truths remain beyond our comprehension." The young fly nodded, though uncertain if he fully grasped the elder's words. He only knew he felt an irresistible pull to discover what lay beyond the meadow. "I'll go," he said quietly. "I'll find what it is I need to see." The elder's worn wings lifted in faint encouragement. "Yes," he said. "And whatever you find, know that even a single day can hold an entire lifetime's worth of meaning." With that, the elder settled back onto the warm stone, his frame sagging. The subtle trembling of his legs suggested he was nearing his end, and still his eyes glowed with quiet conviction. The young fly, though sorrowful to part from this guiding presence, felt newly emboldened. He tested his wings, which buzzed more reliably now. The last words he heard from the elder lingered in his mind as he rose shakily into the air. Every life no matter how brief, has a purpose. Even if we never see it fully, the threads connect. A gust of wind carried the young fly higher, the stone with the elder growing smaller beneath him. In the distance, beyond the meadow, loomed the shadows of conflict. The muddy road, the soldiers, the wagons. And further still, an expansive world of unknown corners and secrets. With a final glance at the elder, the young fly turned and headed toward that looming world, bracing himself for what he might discover. He vowed to cherish each moment, to keep his eyes and heart open in whatever fleeting time remained.
Please do me a huge favor and like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it.